Hello there. Have you ever read a series and go, "Whoa, I love this"? But then you notice that not many people talk about it. And no matter how much you try, you are unable to convince people to read it because you don't know how to interact with human beings. A common everyday struggle. I know. Over the course of the years, I have found many series that I would like to talk about, but most times than not, never had the chance. So I finally decided to do the next best thing. Make videos about them. Because why not? There weren't many options I had in mind about what my first video would be about. But then I noticed that there was a very high chance of getting demonetized or reported by talking about them. Sorry, Fujino. So I decided to start with something more family friendly, and that series is Kinnikuman. Before we start, I feel that a little clarification is needed. When I say Kinnikuman, I guess most of you would think about Ultimate Muscle, and while I have a lot to say about that series, that will be for another occasion. And I am well aware that it got forsaken site and really has some very good videos about Kinnikuman. But there are many videos that talk about the general events of the series in detail, from its first chapter to the present. Yes, the series started in 1979 and it continues to this day. Yes, it's a long story, we will talk about it later. And we wanted to do the job that someone that overanalyzes everything to the point that he annoys everyone. So yeah, let's start with the video. While the series, as shown in Ultimate Muscle, is focused on characters with extravagant powers and appearance wrestling in the ring, the first chapter of Kinnikuman had a different focus, to say the least. With the first chapter, makes a good job of showing it. Some monsters decide to invade Earth. The army is scared, and they are unable to communicate with the superheroes for help, due to silly reasons. And after a sudden wrestling spar, they decide that they don't have other option than to guard Kinnikuman. But then they carry him out due to not having any sort of special move. After an extremely short training montage that even the chapter itself takes notice of it, Kinnikuman finally gets a special move, ready to face the monsters. Only to find out that they didn't bother to appear, not to do wanting to fight a loser like Kinnikuman. Ouch. As you can probably see, Kinnikuman originally started as a comedy series, focused on spoofing the tokusatsu genre, more specifically Ultraman, with Kinnikuman being a superhero that doesn't exactly have the best reputation, being seen as, simply put, a loser. The writing duo which works on the series, Kaiju Tamago, which means boiled egg because I guess they really like those, and I don't blame them, and wrestling fans, and you can see that in Kinnikuman, whose design is clearly based on wrestlers from that era, where Trunks reigned supreme. And I guess that he also had that look because he didn't have enough money to buy more clothes. Also, two of the kaijus that appeared on the chapter are also based on wrestlers who were popular in that era, the Sheik and Abdullah the Butcher. There have been some cases of people interested in the series that have been disappointed to find out that its first chapters are silly, literal of Monster of the Week stories instead of being about exciting wrestling matches. And while that's understandable, I can help or like these chapters, seeing the humble beginnings of our main character. Another reason why I feel the early chapters are worth reading is because they would introduce important characters that would accompany Kinnikuman on his adventures to this very day. The first of these characters would be Alexandria Meat, more commonly known as just Meat, a young kid who is a member of Kinnikuman's race, that was sent to Earth to retrieve him on the orders of their planet king, who is his father. Yes, that's right. Turns out Kinnikuman isn't only a member of an alien race, or surprisingly not considering that he is an Ultraman parody, but he's also a prince of said race. So, how he ended up on Earth? The parents sent him there to protect him, to save him from some catastrophic event? Not really. When Kinnikuman was a baby, his and his family went to Earth for a vacation trip, and when they were leaving, they discovered that a pig entered the ship. so they throw him out. Kinnikuman, that is, with the pig staying in the ship, and they decided to stay with the pig and leave the baby son in Earth. This is probably my favorite Superman spoof ever. From the get-go, it's clear that the reason that why Meat was introduced was because he would become a great foil to Kinnikuman, acting as a straight man, in this case kid, to the grown man bumbling sassiness, with Meat being focused on taking Kinnikuman back to Planet Kinniku, and Kinnikuman refusing to leave in the expected manner. Meat's debut chapter also marks the first time ever that Kinnikuman would fight in a ring. Although compared to how matches are nowadays, this one is a very simplistic one, being more focused on slapstick, with Kinnikuman only moves being his Kinniku beam, which fails, and trying to run away, with Kinnikuman only winning due to his expressions of pain, making his opponent laugh so hard that he broke his spine. Seriously. The following chapter introduced Kinnikuman's parents, the king and queen of Planet Kinniku, Mayumi as Yuri Kinniku. The reason why Meat was sent to Earth and retrieved Kinnikuman was so that he could help them deal with the pig that these two decided to treat as their son, because I guess they couldn't be bothered to find another parking lot in Earth, who defeated the king to become the new ruler of the planet, turning pigs into the dominant species. And this is just the fourth chapter. The motive reunion between the former rulers of the planet and their son turns out as you probably expected, with Kinnikuman, whose real name is Suguru, refusing to help his parents, only coming to the planet to say hi, only deciding to help as their mid-sister, who happens to be a pretty girl, begs him to do it, of course. And so Kinnikuman, in one of what it would be one of his many gaudy attires, challenged the King Ping, with random wrestling reference on the side, of course. But there is a problem. Kinnikuman forgot to bring garlic, the source of his powers. Yes, he's basically powered by garlic. Sometimes I wonder how they ended up thinking about these things. Without his espinac, Kinnikuman is soundly outclassed by the pig, only for him to run away because a butcher, apparently the same butcher that was going to kill him many years ago, came for him. Truly, there is always a bigger fish. With the pig out of the picture, Mayumi regains his title of king. Clearly disappointed of Suguru, he sent him back to Earth, but not without first revealing that he decided to adopt another son. What a great parent. The next character introduced would be Kinnikuman's first love interest, Mari Nikaido, a kind young woman who works in a kindergarten. Meat also seems to have feeling for her, so basically Suguru's romantic rival isn't another adult, but a 6-year-old kid. And the kid seems to have better chances than him. Poor guy. Following Mari, we would finally have another wrestler-looking superhero in Ultraman, based on Texan wrestler Terry Funk, back in the Funkster younger days. Like his mentioned, he comes from USA, presenting himself as a sort of superhero for hire, saving people and defeating monsters, but for a price. But considering that apparently the option is Kinnikuman, people prefer to pay for his service. Terry quickly became a very popular hero in Japan, to the point that they chose him to be Japan's official protector. But when a kid comes asking for help, only to be rejected by Terry due to not having enough money to pay, Kinnikuman jumps into action to protect the kid and aid him, in one of the very few times in this arc where the chapter doesn't end with Suguru looking like a loser. Such heroic action makes Terry gain respect for Kinnikuman, and they became friends, starting one of the most long-lasting friendships in the history of shonen. The last member of the main cast during this arc is Shouno Natsuko, a reporter for a magazine that focuses on superheroes, who is a simple but still amusing twist to the classic reporter that loves the main character trope. She isn't interested in Kinnikuman, but rather Terryman, with the two quickly becoming a couple. Most of the enemies Kinnikuman fights in this arc are, well, Kaiju, giant monsters. Although just as Suguru is a very silly superhero, some of these monsters are also quite silly looking, with wacky appearance, like a giant shrimp. But aside of these monsters, Kinnikuman also got a sort of main antagonist, Kinnikuman, who, despite being one of the most famous villains that I have ever seen, in the end he ended up being as good as a villain as Kinnikuman commonly is as a hero, with his plan always blowing up to his face, with some chapters ending with him as the butt of jokes rather than our main character, for a good change of pace. Following Kinnikuman was Iwao, a rock monster that was previously introduced as one monster that should beat up easily, and that tells you everything that you should know about this guy. After 2 volumes of silly adventures, the arc would end in a 2-parter, with Kinnikuman and Hartmann going to an island to save the inhabitants from a giant monster, with a good pay awaiting them. But it turns out that the monster is a giant robot, and to Total Fury they are able to summon an ancient winged mammoth that helps them destroy the giant robot, which turned out to be controlled by Kinnikuman and Iwao, of course. Then the big break ended up being in the local currency of giant rocks. I know that I haven't talked much in detail about every chapter of this arc, but almost all of them are of the wild crazy as this one. It's the kind of stuff that it's better to go blind to truly appreciate the very sudden twists and turns some chapters have. Seriously. And so it ends the first arc of this wonderful series. Sorry for the overall quality of the video, but I will try to improve in the future. So feel free to share any feedback you have in the comments. I hope to see you in the next video, where we will talk about the Choin Olympics arc. So don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and stuff like that. So with that much to say, see you next time!